The first rays of dawn painted the fortress walls in soft gold, yet Ilara did not rise. Her thoughts lingered on the night before, the full moon, the silver glow, and Kaelin's words that whispered of hearts that could change. For the first time since her arrival, she felt a fragile hope. The fortress, once a place of fear, now seemed filled with possibility. Kaelin appeared at her door, as he often did when the sun had barely touched the stones. "You slept late," he said softly, his usual sternness replaced with something gentler. "I had much to think about," Ilara replied. Her voice held a quiet strength that had grown in the weeks spent within these walls. She no longer felt only fear. She felt curiosity, and a growing trust in the man she had once only feared. He nodded as if he understood the weight behind her words. "Then let us walk," he suggested. Together they moved through the fortress gardens where moonlight from the night still lingered on petals and dewdrops, catching on every leaf. The silence between them was not empty. It was filled with unspoken understanding. Slowly they began to speak, not of war, not of politics, but of small truths. Kaelin spoke of his childhood, of battles he had fought, of losses that still haunted him. Ilara spoke of her family, her fears, and her longing for a life not dictated by others. Each revelation drew them closer, like threads weaving a tapestry under the moon's quiet gaze. One evening the castle hall erupted in commotion. One of Kaelin's trusted advisors, driven by greed and jealousy, had attempted a rebellion. Ilara witnessed Kaelin's fierce command. He moved like a shadow of steel, quelling the uprising with precision and strategy. And yet when the danger passed, he sought her out. "Ilara, are you unharmed?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. She nodded, though her heart still raced. "I am," she replied. For the first time she felt that he truly cared for her safety, not as a duty but as a choice. The days turned into weeks, and with each passing full moon, their connection deepened. They began to meet in secret under the silver light, sharing whispered conversations on the balcony and in quiet corners of the fortress. The moon seemed to bless their moments, bathing them in its gentle glow as if the world outside could not touch them there. "Ilara," Kaelin said one night, his voice trembling with a rare vulnerability, "I have carried burdens for so long that I thought I would never be free. But now with you here I feel the possibility of something different, something better." Ilara's heart ached with a mixture of hope and fear. She wanted to believe him, yet years of loss and betrayal had taught her caution. "Kaelin," she whispered, "I do not know if I can trust so easily, but I want to try. I want to believe in a future that is not shadowed by fear." He reached for her hand, and for the first time she did not pull away. His touch was firm, gentle, and full of unspoken promise. In that moment the fortress seemed to fade around them, leaving only the two of them beneath the moonlit sky. Yet peace is always fragile. News arrived that another army, hearing of Kaelin's victories, marched toward the fortress. Ilara's kingdom and Kaelin's lands were threatened once more. They had found trust and even a budding love, but the shadow of war loomed large. "We must protect what we have built here," Kaelin said, his hand still holding hers. "Not just the fortress, but the hope, the peace, the chance for something new." Ilara nodded. "Then we will face it together," she said. Her voice, once timid, now carried strength and determination. The army arrived as the moon rose full and bright, painting the battlefield in silver light. Kaelin and Ilara stood side by side, no longer as captor and captive, but as partners in a fight that would test both their courage and their hearts. Kaelin's strategy was brilliant, not only in defense but in protection of life. He fought with skill and wisdom, and Ilara assisted where she could, using her intelligence and insight to guide decisions. Together, they moved with a synchronicity born of trust and mutual respect. As the battle reached its height, Ilara saw Kaelin falter for a moment, struck by an arrow meant for her. Without hesitation, she rushed to him, pulling him from danger. They stood together in the moonlight, hearts pounding, realizing that their bond had become unbreakable. The enemy forces, seeing their unity and courage, began to falter, and the battle slowly turned in Kaelin's favor. After the fight, Kaelin led Ilara to the highest balcony of the fortress. The moon hung large and luminous above them, casting its silver glow across the valley. Below, the remnants of the battlefield lay quiet, and above, the sky promised peace. "Ilara," Kaelin said, turning to her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "You have changed everything. You have changed me, and I want to build something lasting, something beyond fear and war." Ilara looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity and hope reflected there. "Kaelin," she whispered, "I want that too. I want to believe in a life where love is stronger than fear." And so, under the full moon, Kaelin built for her a kingdom, not of stone or gold, but of trust, respect, and shared dreams. He guided her to a private sanctuary within the fortress, a place bathed in silver light where they could speak freely, laugh softly, and imagine a future together. The walls were adorned with tapestries that told stories not of conquest, but of unity and love. The air was fragrant with night-blooming flowers, and the moonlight seemed to linger longer here, blessing their moments. As they explored this new world, they discovered joy in simple things, walking through the gardens, sharing stories by the fire, and learning about each other's strengths and vulnerabilities. Kaelin no longer seemed like a fearsome general, and Ilara no longer felt like a sold captive. They had become partners, equals in a kingdom of their own creation, bound not by duty or fear but by love and trust. Yet even in this sanctuary, shadows remained. A figure emerged from the forest, watching the fortress from the darkness. Though Kaelin and Ilara had won the battle, the world beyond their moonlit kingdom remained dangerous. They knew that challenges would come, that threats would linger, and that their love would be tested. But for now, under the light of the full moon, they stood together, hand in hand, hearts aligned. Ilara realized that she had been sold to the enemy general, yet in his arms and through his courage, she had found a kingdom far greater than any she had imagined, a kingdom of love, trust, and shared dreams. Kaelin turned to her, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. "No matter what comes," he said softly, "we will face it together. This is our kingdom, and it will grow stronger with every choice we make." Ilara smiled, feeling the truth of his words settle deep within her. "Our kingdom," she repeated, "and it begins now." As they stood beneath the full moon, the forest whispered around them, carrying secrets and promises. The moonlight bathed the fortress in silver magic, and for the first time in their lives, both Kaelin and Ilara felt free. Free from fear, free from the chains of the past, and ready to face whatever destiny awaited. The story closes on this moonlit scene, hearts intertwined, knowing that the road ahead may be uncertain, but together, they had created a world of love strong enough to endure. The full moon shone above, eternal and unwavering, a witness to a love born in shadow but flourishing in light. The night was alive with the silver glow of a full moon. Its light fell over the war-torn valleys and the distant forests, bathing the land in an almost sacred shimmer. Ilara's heart beat wildly as she was led through the gates of the enemy fortress. She was a noble woman of her kingdom, known for her quiet intelligence and unwavering grace. Yet now, sold to General Kaelin, the feared leader of her enemy, she felt more like a prisoner than a person. Her dress, once bright with her family's colors, was now muted gray. Her hands were trembling not from the cold but from fear. She had heard stories of Kaelin, stories that painted him as a ruthless general with no mercy for those who opposed him. But she had also heard whispers, fleeting tales of a man who held secret sadness behind his sharp gaze. Ilara did not know which was true. All she knew was that she was about to step into a life she had never chosen. The fortress walls rose like dark mountains around her. Guards in black armor flanked the gates, their spears catching the moonlight. As she walked through the grand hall, her eyes drank in the images of conquest. Banners depicting fallen kingdoms, statues of soldiers who had died in Kaelin's campaigns, and tapestries of battlefields drenched in myth and legend. It was a cold, imposing place, and yet there was a strange beauty to it. Kaelin awaited her in the central chamber, standing tall and immovable. His dark hair framed a face both harsh and striking. His eyes, deep and calculating, seemed to weigh her every move. When he spoke, his voice was calm, measured, and utterly commanding. "You are Ilara of Westvale," he said. "You will stay here. Obedience is not required, but understanding is." Ilara's heart surged with a mix of fear and defiance. She did not bow immediately, though she lowered her gaze politely. "I understand," she said softly. Yet inside her mind raced. How could she possibly understand the world of a man who had destroyed kingdoms with a single command? Days passed slowly. The fortress was alive with quiet murmurs and subtle movement. Kaelin was often distant, yet never unkind. He observed her with a curious intensity, testing her courage and her will. Alara found herself drawn to him despite her fear. There were moments when she caught glimpses of vulnerability, when he stared at the horizon in silence or when his fingers brushed over an old, worn map as if remembering something lost. One night, unable to sleep, Alara wandered onto a balcony that overlooked the silvered forest. The moon hung low and luminous, spilling light over the valley. She thought she saw a shadow move among the trees, though when she blinked it vanished. She had heard stories that the full moon could reveal hidden truths, and in that moonlight she wondered if the shadow was a warning or a guide. Kaelin appeared silently beside her. "The moon has a way of showing us what we try to hide," he said. His voice was softer now, carrying a tone she had never heard before. Not fear, not anger, but something deeper, almost like sorrow. Alara glanced at him, startled by the sudden proximity. "Why do you speak to me like this? You are my captor," she said, her voice trembling. "And yet," he replied, his eyes meeting hers, "I do not treat you as a prisoner, perhaps because I know what it is to be bound. Not by chains, but by duty." Her heart ached at the words. She wanted to resist, to remember her own strength, but there was a pull she could not ignore. Something about Kaelin's gaze, steady and unyielding, made her feel seen in a way that frightened her. The days that followed were filled with quiet tension. Kaelin allowed her freedom within the fortress, but she was never sure of her safety. Guards watched her movements and advisors whispered behind closed doors. Yet each time she crossed paths with Kaelin, there was a spark of unspoken understanding. They shared stolen glances across courtyards, moments of silence in the libraries, and fleeting encounters under the moonlit sky. It was during a feast, held in honor of a visiting dignitary, that Alara saw Kaelin in a new light. A group of masked assassins attempted to disrupt the gathering. Chaos erupted, servants screamed, dishes clattered, and guests ducked for cover. And then Kaelin moved. He was a whirlwind of strength and precision, protecting those around him. His sword sang through the air with deadly grace, yet it was not cruelty in his movements that struck her, but the fierce determination to protect. And when he passed her by, his hand brushing hers to guide her to safety, Alara felt a shiver she could not explain. After the danger passed, she found herself alone on the balcony again, the moon casting silver over her trembling hands. She thought of Kaelin, his courage, his power, his mysterious sadness. Could the man who was her enemy also be the one to save her heart from despair? She did not know, but a seed of hope had taken root, fragile yet undeniable. That night, in the quiet of her room, Alara could not sleep. The moonlight seemed to follow her, spilling through the windows like a gentle promise. Outside, the forest whispered in the wind, carrying voices she could not understand. But the feeling was familiar, almost protective. She realized that the world she had stepped into, so dark, so uncertain, was not entirely without light. And perhaps, under the right circumstances, even the heart of a feared general could change. As the full moon rose higher, Alara stood at the balcony's edge, feeling its cool light wash over her. She imagined a world beyond the fortress, a life that could be more than survival and duty. And then she heard a soft sound, footsteps approaching from the hall. Kaelin appeared once more, his shadow long against the moonlit stone. "Alara," he said, his voice low and calm. "There are truths the moon reveals, even when we are afraid to see them." She looked at him, her heart beating in a mixture of fear and anticipation. "What truths?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "That hearts can change," he said, "and that even in darkness, we can find a place of light." Alara felt the weight of his words. She wanted to ask more, to reach out, but the moment held them suspended between fear and longing. Outside, the wind carried the soft cries of the forest, and the moon bathed them in silver magic. Part 1 ends with Alara standing under the full moon, realizing that the man who was her enemy might also hold the key to her freedom, not only from the chains of her circumstance, but from the fear that had gripped her heart for so long. And Kaelin, the man of power, darkness, and sorrow, stood beside her, holding secrets that only the moonlight could reveal. The story waits, suspended on the edge of destiny, as both wonder, can hearts shaped by war and betrayal truly find a kingdom of love under the full moon?